Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Milsurp World, the podcast all about military surplus. Today I'm joined by Danny and Nick. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
We're back in the middle of this outbreak, pandemic, recession, overall bad times. Danny and I are off work because of... Well, Danny's not off work, are you?
Nope. My job's still going.
Nick, is your job still going?
I'm actually working from home.
Well, I work in the
remote
automotive
login every
industry,
day.
so it's not exactly essential. So I have 2 weeks off. Yay! That I can't go anywhere with my 2 children and my wife. Yay! That was
Did you
sarcasm.
Do you know Jim Gaffigan, the comedian?
I am aware of him, yes.
He did a really good skit because he has like 4 or 5 kids or something, and he did a little skit that was hilarious about like him being quarantined with his wife and kids, and that's funny. I think if you watch that, you could relate to it.
Probably. Well, normally we start off with the new people giving a little background, and Nick is new. So, Nick, why don't you tell us who you are? You don't have to give your full name. We can just go by Nick. And
I think it's usually what got you into Milsurps, right? And then latest purchase.
yeah, something like that, yeah.
Hey, my name's Nick. I got into Milsurps because of my dad, actually. When I was a kid, he got his first one, and he was mainly into newer guns at the time, but we kind of got into military rifles. His first one, I believe, was an M1 Garand, and after that, I started liking them, and after that, I got my first one when I was 16 years old. He bought it for me, and I believe it was a Mosin. Don't quote me on that, but I collect about anything military, rifles, pistols, a lot of the gear, because I do reenacting. The most recent one I purchased was a Turkish Mauser carbine and a Ishapur 410 Enfield riot gun.
Ah,
Yeah.
one of the 410s.
Probably the cleanest one I've ever seen.
They tend to be in a little rough shape.
Yeah, this one I think only has 2 scratches that I can tell. I haven't taken the butt pad off or most of the things. There's only one up by the rear band, and one by the action.
Not bad. Did you find some that brass case 410?
I haven't yet. I'm still looking. I really don't want to pay what they want for it right now. I think it's like $3 a shot.
Oof.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that it uses that specialty brass case. I think it's reloadable, though, if I remember.
I thought I was asking another guy that has some, and supposedly you can straighten out a 303 case and just take out the shoulder, because I do a lot of reloading for my military rifles. Supposedly you can straighten out that shoulder in a 303 case, trim it if you need to, and then just crimp the end off with a bullet or...
I mean, that would make sense. It would be similar, probably, enough. Are they single shots?
Yeah, this one's a single shot. It's got a wood block in it, and it's got the follower just sitting on top of the wood block. There are some out there that I've seen videos where they're a 10 shot. I don't know what the deal with those are. There's a couple channels I've seen that have a repeater version, so I don't know if those if somebody have taken the wood block out or what the deal with those are.
I thought they were single shots from the arsenal. Danny, do you think they're single shots?
Yeah, I thought they were. Yeah, I thought they were single shots too. I guess it depends on if like the magazine block is just like in the magazine and you can just swap it out. Because the 410 is similar, like in diameter and everything to the 303. It might work.
Yeah, I wouldn't see why not. I mean, that's probably why they picked the 410, not only because it was a more shotgun, but also it's a similar size.
Yeah, I think, okay, I don't want to say this and be wrong because I'm not sure. So disclaimer, I'm not sure. But I think I heard somewhere that they made the 410s not because it had any sort of advantage, but because when the British wanted to give the rifles to the Indians, they didn't want to give them like main fighting rifles. So they gave them single shot 410s. That way, if they had like if the guns were captured or something by rebels or something like that, they wouldn't be as like military capable.
I mean,
Yeah, it was another way because it was a specific cartridge they developed. It's not like 303 you can get your hands on pretty regularly. They did the 410 because it was kind of a special cartridge they developed, their version at least.
yeah, the brass case 410. Interesting. Well, I don't have any new purchases. Danny, do you?
Yep. Yeah, I have a few coming in that are new. I mean, about a lot since the last podcast, but the ones I'm picking up tomorrow, I'm pretty excited about. I got the main thing is the Norwegian Krag. Finally found one for a decent deal. It's the 1912/16 carbine, and it comes with the original sling, which apparently those slings are pretty expensive on their own. So I found a pretty good deal on Gunbroker, and it's always a gun that I really wish I would have bought when I found that one for $800. So found one for not much more and got it. Also, I bought, I'm going to have to do like an unboxing video or something on it, but I bought a 5-pack of these like Spanish barreled actions from some website that I found, but they were like $14 per barrel action. So I was like, I gotta buy those. That's too cheap. So I'm going to pick those up tomorrow, and hopefully we'll see what they look like soon.
Nice. Well, do you want to get into our topic for today?
Yeah, we'll get into it. So we're gonna do the top 5. Let's see, should we do the regrets or the top 5 finds first?
Let's do the regrets first, because that way we can end on a high note at least.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Well, Nick is the newcomer, so we can start with him if you know your first one.
I don't have very many. I only have a couple that I know of that I can remember. First one was a French Berthier long rifle. And I tried to talk the guy down, and I think he wanted like $380 with a bag of ammo and 2 clips. And I just tried to talk him down, and the bayonet. I tried to talk him down to like 300, and with having a CNR, try to see if he could let me use my CNR and walk that day. Being from Illinois, I had to do a background check, trying to do the CNR game. He wouldn't come down much at all, so I ended up walking. And come to find out, a gentleman at our gun club was there probably 20 minutes after I was, ends up buying the gun. So.
Yeah. Do you remember if it was like the Arsenal that made it, and if it was 3 or 5 shot?
It was a Saint Etienne, I believe, and a 5 shot. So I had the 16 conversion.
Oh, that's cool. Was it marked was it marked M16 or?
It was.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a good one. 380 is that's a good deal. It's a good deal, man. It's a good regret.
Yeah.
And there's another one at a gun show as well. Same price. I just didn't want to spend the money.
Yeah, weirdly, I have a Berthier. I always forget I have one.
I forget you have one too.
Yeah, I bought one off Will.
Oh yeah, what? It's the car maker, right? What's the make?
It's I know I don't know how to pronounce it in French, but it's Delane Belleville, and it's the 07-15, but it's also got the update, so it's the 5 shot.
Yeah, that's neat. That's a pretty rare maker, right?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was. I'd have to ask Patrick again, but it was less than 100,000, I think, before they switched to making armored cars.
That's neat. Yeah, there was a long rifle that I wish I would have bought, but it was a 3-shot Berthier rifle. I can't remember the Arsenal. Found it at a gun show in Washington, and instead of getting the Berthier, I think I bought his Gewehr 98 that he had. He had a, I guess some collectors, I don't know if it's a legit name, but some people call it a Stern Gewehr, like a star rifle, because it has a star on top of the receiver. It was a 1917 Erfurt Gewehr 98, which there's only like 10 or something like 1917 Erfurt Gewehr 98s out there, because I guess Erfurt primarily made the K98 AZs, and they didn't make hardly any G98s. I ended up getting that one, and now Mike has that one.
Oh yeah. Well, Nick, do you have any more? Sorry, I interrupted you.
I have a Hakeem. I was at a show one time.
Oh, Hakeem.
That's one of the dream rifles I need in my collection. I have the Youngman and the Rashid I picked up at a big auction up in the Quad Cities. I'm just missing that middle child.
The Rashid is the hard one.
Yeah.
I know. It's like I can't find one of the easier of the three.
I would say probably the Hakeem might be the easiest of the 3.
Yeah, they typically are. They're more common and the cheapest of the 3.
Of the 3 for sure, yeah.
Yeah, because I picked up for the 3. I got the Youngman, the Rashid, and the SVT 40 all in a package lot at an auction once.
Hot damn.
Oh, nice.
I pay a little bit, but
I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure
I ran into one.
Did it work out as cheaper overall? How much did you pay overall, if you don't mind?
I paid, after fees and taxes, it was like $4,800. So kind of about what it would be to get them all three individually.
Yeah, but I mean, at
I
least you
know.
have them all there.
Exactly. But that Akeem, I saw one guy wanted, this was about 2 years ago, guy wanted 650, which I
Yeah.
just bought a gun 2 weeks before and didn't have the money, but you wish money was everywhere and something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. But
And another one was a K98 I passed on. A local shop had one here. It was a 1939, and they only wanted like 350.
hmm,
So,
yeah, that's cheap.
No Russian capture marks, none of that. So I passed on it. So,
Yeah, do you remember if it was matching or correct stock
know
or
the
anything?
bolt matched the receiver. And I believe the stock matched the receiver as well.
Oh,
But I didn't look over everything.
hmm.
That's rough.
Yeah.
This is why
Yeah.
why we're going to end on the good stuff, Danny, because this is sad.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad I'm drinking right now. That's rough, man.
Yeah, this is getting sad.
My
I got some
Fine
sad
better's
ones
a
too.
little bit better. So
Good.
I got some sad ones too, Danny.
Okay.
Nick, do you got any more?
that's all I can think of right now.
Well, when did you start collecting, Nick? I forgot to ask.
I started when I was 17. I truly got into it. So I'm 23 now. So about seven, 8
Danny,
years.
he's a baby.
I feel old. I feel old as balls. My back hurts
Because
already.
you're 4 years older than me, Danny.
Yeah, I know. I don't look it though, man. People think I'm like 23 on the channel. Apparently,
It's because you moisturize, right?
I don't do shit.
All right. So, is it my turn to list my regrets, as it were?
Regrets.
Well, I have it in order of least regret to most regret.
Oh, that's good. Start off with the least, right?
Starting off with the least is number 5. I was
Okay.
able to come up with 5 of each. And Danny, this is your fault.
Oh.
Number 5 is the 35M.
Yeah.
So Danny
It's
had a 35M, which for those of you that don't know is an extremely rare Hungarian rifle that is post World War I and right before World War II. And he bought it for stupid cheap at a gun shop in Iowa because I made him go back and get it because I knew what it was and I knew he should buy it. And then he decided he didn't want it, so he wanted to sell it.
No.
And then
I have to correct you.
oh, I'm sorry. You wanted to buy a Youngman.
Yeah, I wanted a Jungmann, so I had to sell something, and I didn't have my whole collection with me at the time, so I had to sell a gun that I had with me. So it was a 35M, and I gotta say, selling that is one of my regrets because I honestly wish I didn't because they are hard to find, but it was hard to sell. That gun was hard to sell.
No, and I told you it would be too because it's so rare. Nick, have you ever even heard of it?
I have, yep.
So that's the thing is that it's so rare though is that most people don't even know what it is because the Iowa gun shop sure didn't know.
Yeah, it was in Idaho. It was
Idaho.
in,
So I was Idaho.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was in Boise, Idaho. I was driving from Salt Lake City, Utah to Tacoma, Washington. And I just saw this gun shop, stopped by, and that gun was like in the far back corner of the shop. And they didn't even know what it was. And there's nothing on the tag except for like a low price. I forgot what it was.
I want to say it was a $300 gun.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. Yeah, 300. And I didn't know what it was. I took pictures of it, and I think I sent it to you guys. And you were like, you better buy that. So I think on the drive back from Washington to Utah, I think on the way back, I stopped and bought it.
Yeah. And then you got mad at me for a long time because you couldn't get anybody to buy it because nobody knew what it was.
Oh, yeah. I found the deal on the Jungmann, and I needed to sell my stuff so I could, meet the guy and get the Jungmann. So, but that's the thing, it's one of those guns, and that's a weird thing because like rarity does not always correlate with value or just, like selling price. And that was a hard gun to sell for I can't even remember what I paid for it, but what I sold it for, but it was hard to sell.
I'm pretty sure you made some money on it. I mean, not a huge amount of money, but I think the issue, like you said, is
just enough to buy the Jungmann. Yeah,
you had to find a guy that, like me, wanted a 35M, which is not super common.
Yeah, I had to find one of those weird Monlicker people.
Well, that was before I was even into Monlicker stuff as a whole.
Yeah, you were just getting into them, I think. Then, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, man, that'd be really cool to have, but I didn't have the money. This is going to be a lot of I didn't have the money at the time.
Yeah. If I had an extra, all the money laying around, I wouldn't have sold that one. So I think that's a regret for both of us there, really.
All right, we're going to move on to my number 4.
Yep.
My number 4 is a very recent one, actually, and that is a model 1895 Lee Navy.
Oh, already?
That's on my dream list.
I don't. That's too recent to be a regret. Right?
I can't buy it, Danny.
I mean, it's still in the realm of possibility.
Unfortunately, I don't think so. I was offered a Lee Navy with the bayonet, scabbard, and a clip that you need to load it, because it uses an in-block clip to load it, but not to shoot it, which is very confusing to me. And 5 rounds of original ammo for $2,000, and that included shipping.
Wow, that's a pretty good price.
Yes, and it is from a mutual friend of Danny and mine's. Well, not really Danny's because he won't talk to Danny, but a mutual friend of ours that is selling a lot of his collection, and his collection is almost exclusively straight pull bolt action rifles, and this is a museum level collection, and it is in museum level quality for sure.
Yeah, I've only seen
don't have $2,000. Yeah, I've never seen one in real life.
I was at Cabela's up in Madison, Wisconsin, a couple months ago. They had one, and it's Cabela's, so they're a little high price. They had one without bayonet, without sling, and they wanted $3,200 for it.
And here's the weird thing: for as rare as they are, $3,200 seems low to me, doesn't it, Danny?
Yeah. It's hard to say. Like, I think once gun values get into that $2,000, $3,000 range, like you're already getting out of like most collectors, like what most people can buy the gun for. So then I think it's kind of hard getting the price above that anymore. But yeah, that's probably a little underpriced. Probably $2,000 is for sure probably for the package. But I gotta say though, isn't it like not really an en-bloc clip? It's like a weird stripper / en-bloc clip system.
It's considered an en-bloc clip because you load the clip with the rounds attached to it into the gun, and then when you strip off the first round, it knocks the clip out.
Huh.
And doesn't the bolt go up at like a deep angle when you pull back?
Yeah, it's considered a straight pull, but it does tilt upwards. So you have to rotate it up a little bit and then pull back. It's a very unique gun for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I think that was like the very beginning of the 6mm like heyday.
I mean, there's only 15,000 of them ever made, and I just never thought I would actually ever be offered one. Yeah,
that's true. But Lee Navies are probably, because of the ammo, I bet that has something to do with it, because it's not like something very super commonly available. But there are some guns that are just like they didn't make a whole lot of, but it's not necessarily like valuable.
I think it's just like the 35M, Danny. I think it's too obscure.
Yeah, too obscure. Probably, yeah, most people probably wouldn't know what a Lee Navy was if they saw it at the range or at a table or whatever. And so then you get into the people who have to have, $2,000 or $3,000 to buy it. And then people that have to know what it is and know what it is enough to want to actually buy it. So
that's like a Rashid. They only made them for 1 year, and they only made it, from what I can tell, 8,000 of them. They don't go for more than 1,000. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, man, I know I'm not doing my regrets, but I regret that right now. Not buying that Rashid.
Oh yeah, that's right. You found a Rashid, didn't you?
Yeah. It was in the video. In case people listening haven't seen the video, it was at a gun show in St. George, Utah, and it was in immaculate condition. And the guy wanted $400 for it, and I had no idea what it was. So I didn't buy it. I was stupid.
That's a weird looking SKS.
Yeah, something like that. My brain went something like that.
I mean, that's what it looks like. It looks like a weird looking SKS.
Yeah, it really does. The guy talked to me some about it, and he was like, "Yeah, this is." I think he had two. I think he had two on the table, but the I guess the other one was probably cheaper then. If that one, the nicer one, was $400.
$400, Danny. Damn.
Yeah. The weird thing is, I think it was there for a while too. Like, I don't think anybody else at the show knew what it was, or else they would have been gone. The deal's out west.
Well, should we move on to my number three?
Yeah.
So my number 3, I don't have a lot of details on this gun because I didn't see it very much, but there was a local shop here, and this guy hates Milsurps. He doesn't like dealing with them because he doesn't like people to come in and browse. And let me just say that he is now out of business because he is an idiot. But they had a K98K Russian capture. It was in good shape as a Russian capture goes, but they wanted $300 for it. I told the guy, I'll be back later today, because I went at lunch and I talked to him and I saw it. And I said, I'll be back later today with the money and I will buy it. I go back right after work about 4 or 5 hours later, and he's put it up on Gunbroker and he refuses to sell it to me.
Jeez.
I hate those people that do that.
And this is the best part. He misidentified it on Gunbroker, so he told me, just bid on it on Gunbroker. But I was already pissed off, so I didn't bid on it, and I watched it. He sold it for $290, and then he had to pay for shipping because he said in the thing that it would be free shipping. So he sold it for less money than I was offering to give him, and he had to pay for shipping. So he lost out on money. This is why this guy is out of business.
Oh, what a jerk. I'm glad he shut down.
Oh, don't worry. He blamed it on Illinois' governor at the time.
Man.
An idiot.
That's crazy. That's weird, man. I've been afraid of getting in situations like that when, like, I'll have to leave to go get money to pay for something. And if I can, I always try to, like, put something down, you know?
No, I get it. But it wasn't like... I said, I want this. I was very specific about it. It wasn't I was wishy-washy or anything. I said, I want this. I will be back later today with the money. I walked in with the money in hand, and he's like, I put it up on Gunbroker. I'm just like, what? Are you serious?
Yeah.
It was like 4 hours ago.
Yeah. Stick move. Guy deserved it.
All right, so we'll move on to number 2. And this one might surprise you, Danny. So this was before I was really into Mannlicher rifles. And a lot of this stuff is not actually going to be M95s or Mannlicher rifles, actually, because this is going to be a lot of... I would just buy whatever was interesting to me. And I met this guy in the middle of nowhere in central Illinois. I did like a 4-hour drive to the middle of nowhere, and he had a Swiss K31 and a Moss 4956, and I tried to convince him to sell me both, and he wouldn't. He was convinced, this was like 2014, 2015, he was convinced that the 4956 by itself at the time was an $800 gun, and I could not convince him of anything else. So I could not buy that gun, and it was beautiful condition, perfect condition. The French, not the 8mm. What is it? The
7.5 French.
Yeah,
Moss.
7.5 French, not the 308 conversion or anything like that. It was immaculate, and I ended up buying the K31, which people had known that I don't particularly care for that gun now. But anyway, I bought the K31, and I regret not buying the 4956. I think he was trying to get... I offered him, I think it was $600 for both of them, and he looked at me like I was insane.
Yeah, that's... you might say that's a lowball offer.
But you got to take in mind, this was 5 years ago, Danny.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
This is pre all of the scares, and like this is pre Sandy Hook. So like there's none of this jumps in prices.
Yeah. I think 4956 is I only say this because I saw one for sale and I did research about 10 years ago on them, but I think they were like $400 guns back then. And so say 5 years from now, 5 years in the past from now, it's so you'll say it's $400 or $500 gun, and then and K31s were like $300 or $400 something
Yeah.
5 years
But
ago.
He wanted $800 for the 4956.
Yeah.
And he was basing that off of gun broker listings that had no bids.
Oh, one of those. He's one of
Yes.
those guys.
And I tried to explain to him that none of those have bids, therefore they're not actual things, but he refused to listen to me. And he was starting to get irritated with me, so I just ended up buying, and I was like, I've come out here all this way to buy a gun. I'm buying a freaking gun. So I bought the K31. And I think I ended up buying that for $400. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's a good price for a K31.
Well, back then it was top dollar, but now it's not.
Yeah, no, it's not. What do they say about Milsurps? You don't pay too much. You paid it too early.
God,
Something
I
like
hate
that.
that.
Oh, is that one of your?
That's one of my pet peeves. I hate that saying.
Why?
Because you could still overpay.
But if it's worth it down the road, right?
I mean, maybe. Are you going to pay $600 for a Spanish 1916?
I mean, no, but I would pay like top market value for it, maybe.
Is it going to be worth it down the road, Danny? Are you going to be for sure on that one?
Well, you know what? This is a good point to mention this. I'm actually, I've been talking to a financial advisor that I know here who's like big into Milsurps. His name's Landon. And we're going to do an episode. We're going to talk about Milsurps as an investment. But typically, Milsurp appreciation rate is like 10% per year. And inflation is like anywhere between like 2 and 4% or something like that most years. So Milsurps do appreciate more than more than money depreciates. So
but
I think they make really good investments, and you could pay like top dollar for something like for the K31, paying $400 for it. It's still good.
I agree with you on certain things, but certain items I don't think are going to have much of a value in the future just because they're depressed. I don't think.
Oh yeah.
I don't think my Siamese
varies for sure.
I don't think my Siamese Mausers are going to be worth $1,000 anytime soon.
They are if you will rebarrel them to 4570.
Thank you, Danny.
Did you see that picture that I sent you at the gun show? I found an M95 that was rebarreled to 4570.
Yeah.
Gosh, if I was like rich, I would have bought that gun for you, Aaron. Like just to mess with you.
Just to mess with me, yeah. All right, so you want to hear my biggest regret?
Wait, did you do number that 2 already?
Number 2 was the 4956.
Okay.
So you want to hear the biggest regret?
All right.
I was at a gun store, and I was trying. I had gone to a gun show, and it was terrible. There was literally nothing there but garbage. So I went to a local store in Missouri, and a guy had recently passed away, and Danny knows where I'm going with this, and his entire collection had been sold to this store. And this guy was, I would say, a serious collector. Everything in his collection was matching, had a sling, had a bayonet, almost everything was like fully accessorized. Everything was there. It was tons of stuff. And pretty reasonably priced because the guy that was selling it in the store didn't deal with Milsurps a whole lot. So some of the stuff was overpriced, but some of it wasn't because it just wasn't super common. I ended up trading in my K31, and I got a Viguero, which will come again later. And but something I missed out on that I saw there is a Verndl. And a Verndl rifle, and this was a model 1867/77, so it was updated to the latest caliber. I really love that. It's really cool. Hang on, Danny.
Yep.
Go ahead. You can talk about it.
Yep. I remember you telling me about that whenever you went to the gun shop. And yeah, that stinks. I think it was a pretty decent price. I don't know if it was like a stellar price, but it was a cool rifle. It was pretty rare. Or maybe not rare, but less common. To some people, calling a gun rare is like a pet peeve.
Yeah, I had a guy at a show a couple weeks ago. That auction had Jungle Carbine Enfield, and he thought that was truly rare. I'm like, you see them quite a bit. They made millions of them. They're not that rare.
Yeah, rare is definitely oversaid with guns. It's if I'm ever like at a gun show or a gun shop or whatever, and if I see a gun that has rare anywhere in like the title or price tag or whatever, I know it's overpriced. Like if you go on Gunbroker and you find a listing that has the word rare in it, it's overpriced. You just know it.
Yeah, that's like that Rashid. It's rare in a way because they only made them for 1 year. So you see those always on Gunbroker, rare when they're up there.
Yeah, I think I know somebody who tries not to use the word rare when just like describing like the scarcity of guns. So he just says either scarce or not common or uncommon, something like that.
Rare is definitely overused.
Yeah. Yeah. Rare should be reserved for like the few guns that they only maybe made, 10,000 or so, or maybe there's only a few in the US, like my Belgian captured Ottoman 1893. That is a rare gun, truly, because there's like 5 of them in the US or something.
Yeah, that's a rare gun.
But a little off topic. What's another like fairly uncommon gun? They only made 10,000 of them, but the Brazilian revolutionary rifle.
Oh, you also have one of those, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, they only made 10,000 of them. Not like crazy common because they don't have any real distinctive markings because they're just kind of like export pattern, VZ24s. And so they're very often misidentified. They don't sell for very much. And even if you, say what it is, it's like, just because they only made 10,000 of something doesn't mean it's, necessarily going to be a rare or valuable piece. So you can get some less common, guns, some scarce guns, for a pretty reasonable price just because people aren't necessarily into them.
Yeah, I regret the Vernal. I think it was probably one of the neatest actions I've ever seen. I really can't describe it. Danny, have you ever seen one up close?
No, I've never held one or played with one.
How about you, Nick?
I've heard of them. I've never even seen one, but I've heard of the model.
Yeah, that drum breech is just so weird. And it looks like it should be because it has the external hammer and like you cock it like with the hammer, and it's just a weird combination of a rifle, and it's just so cool. But that's my biggest regret, and I didn't have the money to buy both, so I only got the one.
Do you remember how much it was?
Yeah, I remember it was about $600.
Yeah, that's a good price.
And like I said, everything in this guy's collection was immaculate, so it was in amazing condition.
Get it from like an estate or something?
Yeah, it's the guy that passed away, and the family sold. They knew this dealer, and they sold all of their stuff to him, and they were selling everything off. And the guy said that I got there towards the tail end of the sale. Like most of the really nice stuff went at the beginning, and that was months before I went. So there was like all matching Gewehr 98s with the bayonets that were matching. It was like really, really nice stuff. So I missed out on that, obviously. Yeah,
you can get some really good deals from estate sales. My 1917 I got out of an estate. The guy that was selling it for the widow, and obviously just by the prices of the guns, he had no idea like what the market value was on any of them. But he was asking $400 for that Remington 1917. I might have just made a little segue over into our top 5 finds there.
Yeah. Nick, do you want to start off with our top 5 or whatever, how many you have of your finds?
I actually have 4 that I can think of off the top of my head. My first one is actually a Type 38 Arasaka. Just picked that up a couple months ago. Picked up at an auction. I believe I paid $150.
Oh, wow. Danny.
Yeah. What did it have? Mum? Hashtag mum life. Mum life.
Did not have a... no, it did not have a desk cover. I can't remember. Did the Type 38s ever have a desk cover?
Yeah, they do.
I don't know much about the Type 38s. It's got something cool, I think. It's got where the stock next to the action area, where it looks like shrapnel had hit it. So It looks like it's actually been used in battle, which I think is kind of cool. So yeah,
that's a really good price for a mummed 38s. I think if a 38 has a mum and it's in decent shape, it's automatically like 300 plus probably, or maybe 400 nowadays. Not super sure, but yeah, it's a good deal.
I actually got a couple I didn't purchase them. My dad actually purchased them. That was at the same auction. They're kind of a cool find. A German Luger 1911 dated, numbers matching, for I believe $750.
That's good.
Is a heck of a good price for a Luger numbers matching.
Yeah. Yeah, you could run into like good deals on like World War One and pre-World War One Lugers, because I think a lot of collectors focus on like the World War II Lugers. So every now and then you can find a nice like early one like that.
Hell, even a commercial one you can get pretty cheap comparatively.
Yeah. Yeah, like I found a decent matching, like I think it was a 1916 Luger, an Erfurt, all matching. I think they wanted like $800 for it.
All right. You want to go to my next one, number 4?
Yep.
Or number 3? Oh no, it'd be number 3. Next one was a L1A1 FAL.
Oh, nice.
It was a Century Arms remake that needed a little bit of work. We were down in Nashville for the holidays, and they originally wanted $899, which isn't terrible, but I was able to talk them down to right at $700. So, which for an FAL L1A1,
Oh yeah,
it's a pretty.
That's
good price.
very good. You must be quite the smooth talker.
No, I was trying to do my CNR, which I knew wasn't going to work. I told him it needs work, and so I was going to fill my paperwork out, handed in my driver's license to do my 4473. He saw that I was from Illinois, so he tried to play the game. I can't sell you it because you guys have a magazine restriction. I'm like, I work at a gun store. We don't have a magazine restriction, so I ended up having to ship it back to a local FFL back here. But he didn't charge me tax. He only charged me shipping, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, sometimes like the shipping and tax are about the same. So yeah, you probably worked out about the same, maybe minus transfer.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
My number 3.
That'd be your number 2, right?
No, number 2, yeah. I have like a list. I forgot to check them off. Would be a PU Mosin. It's it's one of the Century Arms ones.
Mm-hmm.
For $175, I couldn't.
Oh, yeah.
And it was at a local auction where everything goes super high, but for some reason this didn't. And it was me versus a guy I do reenacting with. We're the only ones that knew that it was a PU, and he's like, "I'm not gonna bid you up. You can have it." So.
Oh, that's decent of him.
I was like, I couldn't go wrong. I was gonna go up to 300 if I absolutely had to.
Yeah. Wow. How long ago was that?
That was about 3 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they were pretty high.
That was
3 years ago already.
They truly skyrocketed to like they're up near 1,000 already.
Yeah. That was so interesting how the price spiked on those things because they imported a ton of them and then they were real cheap. And the price jumped up. But I mean, 175 is still way cheaper even than what they were. But yeah.
Even if it didn't have the scope for a standard Mosin 3 years ago, that was even a good price for the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not wrong.
$300+.
Yeah, 175 even just for an M90 130 isn't a bad price back then. I'm sure some people are like, "Wow, that's ridiculous."
Yeah. And my number 1, this is where I've told a couple guys this. They think it's crazy. I got it. A probably 99 to 100% condition Moss 36 for $185.
Oh, nice. Is it a post-war?
It's a post-war, but it's in pristine shape, and it's got 2 wear marks where it sat in a crate. So like the stained in the wood where it sat in the crate, and I think that's just so cool.
Yeah, that is
for $185. I thought I might as well get this. Guy had no idea what he had, so.
Yeah, that's nice. Where'd you find that at?
It was at a local military surplus store when they sold guns, and I wasn't into French yet. I had saw it. I'm like, I was mainly into World War II stuff, so I looked at it. Yeah, he had it marked French rifle, and I was like, I've seen it from some movies and stuff. I had done some research. He wanted, I think, right at 200, but I talked him down a little bit, so I was able to. Even at $200, I couldn't go wrong.
Yeah, no, that's a good deal.
No, not for something like that.
Have you shot it?
I have. I shoot every gun I own. I try to buy a gun that I can't shoot. There's only one gun between my dad and I that we won't shoot, and it's a Type 14 Nambu. It's got the wrong trigger housing in it, and wherever we push the mag release, the trigger housing falls out. So that's one of those guns we probably won't ever shoot.
Yeah. The parts are pretty hard to find for those.
And that's why we don't want to shoot. We don't want to break it. who knows how with the Nambu, the firing pins are so weak. If you dry fire it, you could break the firing pin, and knowing those things, who knows how hard it'd be to find a firing pin for it.
Yeah. Yep.
Oof, that's some nice stuff you found. Well, Danny, should we move on to mine?
Yeah.
All right, so I got 5 again, and this is from what I think is the.
Is it best deals or is it like your favorites?
It's my best deals, I think. That's
Okay.
what I've gone with here. And I mean, they're not necessarily my favorites, but definitely they were. Most of these do correspond to favorites too, though. All right, so my number 5 is something I have gotten actually fairly recently, which is my pristine condition and all matching M95-24 that I paid $550 for. And that is the most expensive thing on this list, but this is like immaculate condition. Danny's seen it.
Yep. I've handled that one. It is very good shape and a very uncommon gun.
Nick, do you know what those are?
I do, yes.
So yeah, the M95-24, for those that don't know, is the much more common version is the M95M, which is the Yugoslavian conversions from the M95s to 8mm Mauser. And the M95-24 is the earlier version. Because they were also used in Yugoslavia, they didn't get a whole lot of attention and they got a lot of wear. So the fine one in this good of condition, I jumped on it as soon as I could. And this is probably the most expensive M95 I have in my collection. I have 9 now, but it's definitely the crown jewel of the collection for sure.
Yeah, you're starting to accidentally collect a couple 8mm conversion guns.
On accident, yeah. Yeah,
which
that's I have two 8mm Mauser rifles, but neither one of them are Mausers.
Yep.
That way that works out, right?
Yeah. That's what I would expect from the gun hipster.
Hey, gun hipsters for sure. All right, so we're gonna move on to my next one. Now, I couldn't decide, so I'll let Danny, if you want to decide. Nick, you want to help me out with this? I couldn't decide between the 1909 Peruvian Mauser or the 1903/39 Viguero. Now, the Viguero is all matching, including the sling, and that's the one I bought. I swapped my K31 for, so I have $400 in that. An all matching Viguero with the sling for $400. I was like, this is awesome. Now the 1909 Peruvian was also only $400. It was not matching, which most aren't, and it was not re-blued, so it was properly in the white, and it was beautiful, right, Danny?
Yep.
So what would you think? What would you think was the one?
1909.
Really? The
Yep.
Viguero is so cool.
It's cool, but they're not as valuable as the 1909, and for what you paid for it, I think that's a better deal.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with a Peruvian. The Vigueros are cool. Something about a Mauser I like more than some of those oddballs.
So that's the oddballs for me, though.
Yeah. Aaron loves
although
the
the
weird, less common
1909,
ones.
the 1909 is a pretty oddball. I mean, it's essentially the Gewehr 98 export, but with a small ring Mauser barrel, and it's in 7.65. It's a really weird Mauser.
Yeah, it is weird. I was actually just comparing my 1909 Peruvian to my Gewehr 98, and there's quite a few differences. I was surprised, like the receiver ring length is longer on the 1909 than it is on the Gewehr 98, which I was surprised.
They demanded that they had a lot of surplus barrels for their 1891s, and I'm sorry, the 1891s. Sorry, so they wanted to be able to swap the barrels between the 1909 and the 1891s, but the 1891s are a small ring, and the Gewehr 98s are large ring, so they had to make a special receiver adapter, I guess. I don't really know for sure how that works, but they are swappable between the 1891 and the 1909 barrels.
Yeah, which is kind of weird, but I guess I could see why they would do that if you just happen to have a ton of them. And I think Peru's thing that they couldn't afford an order outright, so they kind of got them through Argentina. It's
a lot of political stuff going on then. A a lot of South America in the late 1800s and early 1900s hated each other. I don't know if that's still the true today.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of posturing. Like, Brazil even bought a battleship from the UK just to, like, say, fuck you guys. It was, like, really a lot of posturing between the different countries. So, I believe Argentina and Peru were one of the friendly groups. So, Argentina... Mm-hmm. So, I know that when they gave them the 1891s, I don't think didn't they grind off the Argentine markings typically?
They did on the 1891s, but they stopped after that, yeah.
Right, so they ground off the Argentine markings because I believe they were not supposed to, due to a treaty or something, that they weren't supposed to arm Peru because they were being aggressive to another country. I don't know for sure. I don't know the history of this, but there's a lot of interesting, fascinating history in South America. They did not like each other.
Yeah. There is a lot of neat history about like the Mauser development and stuff there, and a lot of people, like, I guess, are very like focused on like the world wars and Europe and stuff, so they don't really care about South American history and South American Mausers, which is kind of nice for some collectors that really enjoy it because the guns are pretty cheap. Like for the high quality, Mauser rifles that they're really undervalued, I think, and there is some really neat history. The Chileans, that drove a lot of their Mauser production and adoption was, the other countries that were buying them. And I think it was like Peru and Bolivia were there because they're to the north of Chile. And so they kind of were allied against Chile. And then, of course, Argentina is kind of the big rival with them as well. So it was kind of like when any one of them would buy a new rifle, the other ones kind of had to buy one to keep up. And
it was a bunch of posturing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just from like one country adopting a new rifle would force another one too. Or sometimes it would just be like an ammunition purchase. Like, Argentina would buy a big batch of ammo. And so then Chile would be like, oh, we have to buy some too. And so it's some pretty neat history down there.
Well, and I think we've discussed this before on the podcast, Danny, but I think that we would all agree that the best quality rifles were going to be made by Mauser post or pre World War I, because that's going to be like they're still like developing and still trying to sell their product to the mass market, especially the pre-Gewehr 98 models. And so they're going to be the best quality stuff because you're not going to get a reputation for it being shit.
Yeah. The pre-war Mausers were definitely pre-World War I Mausers definitely really good. They still were very high quality. Just interwar, like right before World War II as well. They had a lot more competition after World War II and a lot more things kind of stopping them from selling guns. But yeah, sort of. You could definitely say a very good argument for that. The best, highest quality Mausers are definitely from right before World War I.
And then that's when South America armed themselves. So you have Argentina, Chile, Peru, Bolivia, Colombia, Brazil, Venezuela. They all armed themselves with Mausers, all different kinds, and it was either 7.65 or 7mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Argentina and Peru, I know, are 7.65s, and everyone else that I can think of went 7mm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right.
I'm sure there's like another one I'm missing that somebody's going to correct me on, but
I don't think anybody else went 7.65.
Yeah, none that I can think of. And I kind of wish Argentina would have switched to 7mm, because I would absolutely love a Argentine 1909 carbine and 7mm.
Is that the one with the nose cap?
Yeah, it's kind of got a nose cap, but they're pretty neat. I don't know, something about that gun I really, really like, but it's just, I'm not in love with 7.65. It's not a bad cartridge, but I've kind of bitten into 7mm. And
everybody knows that 7mm is the best Mauser caliber.
Yeah, it's up there. It's 6.5 Swede and 7mm Mauser, I think, are the two right, probably best.
I'm just going to stop you right there, Danny. 6.5 is not a Mauser caliber.
Well, that just depends on your definition of what a Mauser caliber is. If there's a Mauser rifle chambered in it, then it's arguable to say that it is kind of a Mauser cartridge.
Okay, so 30-06.
Yeah, that's like an afterthought.
7.62 by 51.
I get what you're saying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But
8 by 50R Siamese.
okay. What do you think, Nick? I think Nick's gonna have to arbitrate this.
I'm a 6'5" guy.
But 6.5 was not developed by Mauser, is my point. 6.5 was developed
True.
by Sweden.
I'm a 7 mil. It's light recoiling. 8 mils are nice. I just picked up an 8 mil, but
Well, see, that's the
7
thing is that
millimeters
people
nice.
don't realize this either. 8mm was not developed by Mauser either.
Yeah, but it's still called 8mm Mauser.
Yes, but it wasn't developed by him. It was developed by the committee that developed the 1888.
So you're gonna start correcting people when they call it 8mm Mauser?
I don't have a problem with that.
Actually, and it's not 8mm Mauser.
Fine, Danny, but I'm also not like
8mm
that.
Mauser German Commission.
It's not even 8mm Mauser German Commission. It's 8mm German Commission. Because Mauser,
Yeah, I get.
Mauser famously had nothing to do with the commission, Danny.
Yeah, but 7mm Mauser was a response to 6.5 Swede.
I do believe, though, when Othias was on here, that Mauser initially submitted for the 1898 a 6mm version, didn't he?
Yeah, they had. Yeah, it was some type of 6mm. I can't remember exactly, but yeah.
He was really big
He
on the
did
small
develop one.
caliber fast rifles. Like, he was big on that. Like, he went from, well, I mean, he made the 11mm Mauser, but so the 7.65 down to 7, and then he was really pushing for a 6mm for a long time, but they refused to look at it.
Yeah, well, so Paul, if I have the story straight, I'm sure somebody's gonna say that I don't have it right, but Paul was sort of reacting to a lot of the 6.5s that were coming out, and I think 6.5 Swede was the big motivation for him, and he tried a lot of 6.5 millimeter cartridges. He played around with them, but he couldn't quite get the performance that he wanted out of it. So then that's when he kind of had to up it to 7mm, and then I think he was a lot more satisfied with that. Of the two, they recoiled very similarly. I did a video where I shot an M96 and a Chilean 1895 and 7mm back to back to compare the recoil of both, and the recoil is surprisingly similar to both. So you could definitely see the relation.
Well, this will help me segue perfectly into my number 3.
Okay.
My number 3 is the first rifle I ever purchased, which is an 1895 Chilean Mauser.
Aha.
And it was made, according to the serial number, in 1896. I bought it for $190 at a local auction, and it was the first one I ever bought.
That's what's got you into them, right?
Still have it. It's not.
Yep.
It's totally mismatched. But it's got a beautiful dark wood stock on it, and 7mm Mauser is just so smooth and easy to shoot. Can't complain.
Yep, 7mm Mauser is really good. Now, I gotta say, if you like the 1895, you will truly love an M96.
You keep trying to sell me on the Swedes, Danny.
Dude, I'm telling you, it is just better. You've never shot one back to back before, and if you did, you would agree with me. The action is smoother. It is stronger, kind of, and I think you would like it.
Aren't they essentially the same thing?
Yeah, no, yes and no. So the 1895 doesn't have the cutout in the receiver wall for your thumb to sort of help with loading the stripper clip. So it is pretty nice that the M96 has that. And then the M96 development, or actually the M94 development with the Swedes, that actually influenced the 1898, what became the 1898, because that's in the 1890 or the M94 Swede carbine, which then became the M96 rifle. That's where they put in that the guide rib that's on the very top of the bolt whenever you're pushing in the battery. So that engages with the receiver bridge. There's a notch in the receiver bridge, and that replaced the old guide rib that was in the left side of the receiver wall, which is it was a decent idea for its time, but it's a lot of extra friction. Where that guide rib at the top of the receiver bridge, it works out a lot better, and it causes a lot less binding. And again, if you watch that video when I shoot the M96 and 1895 side by side, you could definitely feel that the friction and the bolt kind of getting caught up. If you push it at a sort of a diagonal, you really have to push the bolt straight on the 1895 or all the kind of pre M94 Mausers, which it's in Crown Jewels. Actually, that was one of the big complaints from the Swedes, was that if you didn't push the bolt exactly straight forward, that it caused a little bit of binding. And I think that helped push them to create that guide rib on top, which it was so good it carried over on the Gewehr 98, and all future Mausers have that same guide rib. They kept it on all future Mausers. But it was because they added that specifically because the Krag was so good and smooth. The Krag didn't have that problem.
No, I'm sorry, Nick, that we've gotten Danny on a soapbox about Swedish Mausers again.
Oh yeah,
I have one. I love it. I love my M96. It's a sweet shooting rifle.
You just gotta get one.
If I am an M95 lover, Danny is a Swedish meatball lover.
Oh yes.
All right, so should we move on into my number 2?
You're number 2.
Yes.
You're number 2.
Yeah, I got it. I heard it.
Like poop.
We heard it, Danny. We got it.
Poop.
All right, so my number 2, best deal I think I've ever found would be my Mannlicher 1886, and I got that off of Gunbroker. It was mislisted. It was listed as an 1886. It was an 1888-90. So it was listed as a Mannlicher 8890. It's not. It's an 1886, and it was listed as being in 8x50R. It's not. It's in 11mm Verndl. So it's actually super rare, and it was only $300.
Yeah, that's good. And the only reason it survived is because it made its way to South America or something.
So yes, the Austria-Hungary, when they first released the 1886, they were very strict about the quality control. So a lot of parts were kicked out as second quality, even though they're perfectly good parts. So they took all of these parts and they assembled guns out of them, and they offered them up to the market. And for some reason, Chile bought quite a few of them. And after the invention of the Lebel and the 8mm smokeless caliber, a lot of countries, including Austria-Hungary, had to scramble to get their rifles updated to a smokeless cartridge. So most of the 1886s that ended up in Austria-Hungary were converted to eventually 8x50R. Now, because all the ones that were sold to Chile stayed in Chile, they stayed 11mm Verndl. And that's how I ended up with this one. This is an original second quality Verndl caliber model 1886 Mannlicher. And it is complete, it's functional, and for some reason the guy had it as a $300 buy it now on Gunbroker, and I jumped on it.
Yeah, that's a good price. That's a real cheap gun.
And you got to hold that, Danny, and it's huge, isn't it?
Yes, it is very big. It's long. You could tell that it's like thick milled steel, like that it's made out of, and it does give you the impression of quality. And I could see being in 1886 and seeing this gun or shooting this gun and thinking like, whoa, this is the future.
Yeah, especially since before smokeless just blew everything out of the water.
Yeah. Before the Chileans adopted the Mauser, they bought quite a few of those 1886s. They bought 1886s even after the what is it, the 1888s or 1890s or whatever the ones are in 8x50. Even after those were out for a while, so they still bought them.
They had the 1888s, which are the same guns as the 86s, except they're in 8x52R, I believe, originally, which is a semi-smokeless. And then they updated those to an 8x50R semi-smokeless. And then eventually they updated everything to an 8x50R full smokeless, which is eventually what became the 8890s. So there's a progression as they scrambled to get everything into a smokeless. It took a while. It wasn't immediately smokeless. It had to take a little bit to get everything in line. And I didn't know that. Did you know they had a lot of these countries, they had semi-smokeless and then went to smokeless? It wasn't just going straight to that?
Oh, yeah. They had to. It was a progressive thing, yeah. compressed black powder and then semi-smokeless. And
I didn't even know that. I just assumed that it would jump straight there, but I mean, obviously, logistically, you had to figure it out because the French weren't going to tell anybody.
yeah, it's kind of weird that everybody developed it so fast after the French did. It's like all everyone needed to know was that it was possible, and then they did it. Because nobody really did it before then, which is kind of like now with hindsight.
It just doesn't seem like it was a best kept secret.
Yeah, because nobody got the French recipe. They kept that was top secret. So everyone kind of came up with their own recipe, and just it is interesting. Yeah, just like I said, just the fact that it could be made so fast after finding out that it was possible.
It's probably one of those things in history that was like everybody was kind of working on it, but the French got it out first.
Yeah, there are a lot of cases of that. It was what is it called? Like simultaneous invention, whatever.
And actually, going back to one of my regrets, the Lee Navy, Lee actually sued Mannlicher for the M-block clips, but it turns out that they both just developed it at the same time, just separately. The court ruled that the suit was invalid because they couldn't prove that he at any point Mannlicher had either looked at Lee's stuff or that Lee had looked at Mannlicher's stuff. It was literally just simultaneously ideas.
Huh.
It's an interesting
That's pretty neat.
All right, so Nick, you had an L1A1 on your list, right?
Yep.
So my number one is an L1A1 that I bought at an auction where the bidding stopped at $290.
Oh my.
Now, let me just say, it needed a lot of work, but it was functional and complete. A complete functional L1A1. It did have an M-Bell receiver. I don't remember which one it was, but it was a Century put-together rifle, but it was an early one, and they had neutered the barrel for the assault weapons ban, but other than those items, it was perfectly fine. And the auctioneer called it out, and I'm sitting there in shock because I'm just like, what's going on? How is this only stopping at $290? And in fact, the guy that was selling the guns was in the auction crowd, and he got super pissed and started screaming at the auctioneer that there was no way he was going to let him sell anything else, because I think it was either like the second or third item that they sold in the auction that day. And he spooked everybody because he said he was going to pull everything out of the auction because that gun was worth way more than $290.
That's crazy.
But he didn't put a reserve, so it sucks to that guy.
Yeah, I'm an auction tomorrow. I'm watching. They have 3 Mauser 1871-84s in 11mm that were converted for the movie The Last Samurai.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if they're fully functional. They say they've been rebuilt by Gibbs Rifle Company for use in the movie. They say the actions work good. I'm just interested to see if they truly work.
I would assume they would be able to fire a blank.
Yeah, but thinking in like a reenactor's terms, we don't blank adapt a bolt action rifle because there's no need to use the gas. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't see a reason why it wouldn't be capable of firing live rounds. That's when I know a bunch of those 71s and 81s 84s hit the market like right after that movie. So I thought that was pretty neat. Like I wonder where they got them from, like in order to make the movie. But
probably some neat Asian country. I would bet like Nepal or something weird.
Do you have ass?
You think, Danny? Oh no, Nepal was British. They had all the British stuff, didn't they? They wouldn't have had German stuff.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, no telling. I don't know. I mean China. I think China had 71-84s. Maybe.
I think even Siam did. I think Siam ended up buying those too. I mean, once everybody started switching off of the big bore stuff, a lot of the third world countries started buying them up because they needed arms. Yeah.
I think the Europeans just marked them down and sold them to anyone who would buy them, and it's just kind of like buying a couple-year-old electronic for a big discount or whatever. It was good enough for a couple years ago.
Yeah. Anyway, those are my biggest finds. The L1A1 is my biggest for sure. I had it reworked and redone, and I ended up selling it to Sam, who's been on the podcast.
Yeah. I got to shoot it before you sold it. So
And you
That
were
let
not
me know.
impressed.
Oh, I think I was.
I was just kidding. I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I think I liked it. I think the recoil impulse was a lot different than I expected.
Yeah, it's very light recoil, as much as you would expect it to not be.
Yeah, it was a lot more like a push, I guess, than a shove. Like the recoil wasn't like a sharp impulse; it was like a gradual push, which was pretty nice.
It's because of that gigantic and really high tension mainspring.
Yeah, I think guns that have the main recoil spring in the stock, I think they do just feel different when you shoot them for some reason. It doesn't make any sense that, where the spring is in the gun that would do that. But just from my like shooting, experience, like if the main spring is on the stock, like the further back it is, it seems the nicer the recoil impulse is or something. But
Nick, for your L1A1, would you agree?
Yeah, it's a very smooth recoil, and I was expecting my first shot at way more recoil than it absolutely had at all. It was like shooting a 22 almost.
Yeah, it's hardly anything, and it's easy to reacquire the sights. It's just a really smooth operating gun. And to be honest, if I was into semi-automatics more, I would have kept it for sure. It's never had a single issue once I got it redone. And I just didn't need it anymore. I wanted to buy more M95s, and Sam really, really liked it. In fact, I think it's the video on your channel, isn't it, Danny, where we had that shoot?
Yep.
And he shot it one time, and he's like, "I want to buy this from you."
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, the video's on the channel.
He loves it. He absolutely loves it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to getting the parts kit built eventually if I can find like a British pattern receiver.
That's right. You found a parts kit for super cheap, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. It's an actual British, I forgot like the date, but it's an Enfield dated barrel on it, like a 64 or something dated Enfield barrel. Wood furniture, which is pretty neat. It's not the plastic. Yeah, I got it from a show in Lincoln, Nebraska, for $200. The whole parts kit complete. Which is not like a whole working gun for $250 or whatever, but
still, you really can't go wrong with that kind of price.
Yeah. Being in a different state, I couldn't necessarily buy from a private transaction because it was a private seller. I couldn't like private buy a gun, so like a quote unquote gun, but a parts kit was, okay. So,
well, those are my top 5 biggest regrets and biggest deals, I think. I could have included the PSL, Danny, but I hated that gun, so I don't want to talk about it.
Hey, which gun? You broke up there a little bit.
I'm sorry, the PSL. I hated it. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
The PSL was a POS.
There you go. Is it even Milsurp? Is it a Milsurp technically?
Technically, I mean, I don't know how technical you want to be, but no.
Super technical.
Then no. And people are going to fight with me on this, but they could not legally import PSLs into the United States because the receivers they're based on the AK-47 receivers, well, the RPK receivers, if I'm going to be super technical here, and they have the third pin. And although the design has nothing to do with the third pin, there's literally no way to fire a PSL in full auto. The ATF designation says that if it has the third pin, it's not able to be imported. So, what Century and a couple other importers did is they got with Romania, and they had them build brand new tooling, which built brand new receivers without that pin, and then assembled guns off of Milsurp equipment, so Milsurp barrels and everything else, but they're brand new receivers. And then imported those as the PSL. And that's why they have all those weird names, those weird designations.
Yeah.
Is because each importer called them something different. And but they're technically, if you want to be super anal and technical about it, they're not really Milsurps because those receivers are brand new.
So it's kind of like the equivalent of a parts kit build then.
Yeah, because they couldn't be imported otherwise.
Yeah, that stinks. Yeah, I kind of wish, the I guess it's an assault rifle or whatever, but I think the British L1A ones were semi-automatic only.
Correct.
But so I wonder why they had to get cut up.
Well, the assault weapons ban, I think, is probably what it was.
Oh, yeah. I heard from the Falklands War, like that. I don't know if this is true or not, but I guess the Argentines had FALs, and those were for full auto. So the Brits supposedly would like pick up the Argentine FALs or whatever, because they wanted full auto capability.
Yeah, the L1A ones were only ever semi-auto. Now, my L1A one, even though it says it's an L1A one, the receiver is an imbel receiver, which is actually an FAL receiver. So it did have a switch capability to go to full auto. It just it was blocked from being switched there, and also it didn't have all the parts for it. So, but that specific receiver type is now banned from importation because theoretically you could machine the parts and make it a full auto rifle. So
it's a lot of technicalities.
Yes, but that's the way the ATF works, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that is true.
Right, Nick?
That's the.
Yep. Oh, my dad and I just got done building a Sten Mark II off a parts kit, SBR. So we've had to deal with the ATF not too long ago.
Yeah, that's fun. I did my SBR like forever ago, so I haven't had to do it recently. So they change the law enforcement like requirement thing, like where it's not a requirement but it's a notification now?
You still we have to send a letter to our local law enforcement, saying send him a copy saying that we are filing for an SBR, and he normally doesn't. I don't know if they ever look at them. I imagine it goes into just the folder, but they don't have to.
Probably just goes in a bin somewhere.
I had to make an appointment with my local sheriff and sit down in front of my sheriff and tell him that I wanted to build a short-barreled rifle and ask him to sign this paper twice.
It's super easy now. I think we waited 28 days is what my dad just told me. I think it's how long it took. It's incredible how quick they're coming back now for e-filing, because it's all electronic now. You can do.
Oh, so did you pay online and everything? Or you still have to mail a check?
Yeah. No, you can pay with a credit card online.
Oh, wow.
Holy crap, we've entered the 21st century with the ATF.
See, back in my day, we had to write a check and mail it.
It's so easy. I'm looking at doing a Sten Mark V build here pretty soon.
You gonna reenact with it?
I probably won't reenact with it. I don't want to get into the British reenacting. I just think I've always loved Operation Market Garden, like the Bridge Too Far, those kind of things. And that's where the Mark V got its claim to fame, was in Market Garden with the British paratroopers there.
Well, I don't have anything else, Danny. We want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I guess we can. Is Discord? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I just remembered that I got to shoot a full auto Sten one time. That was pretty neat. It jumped around quite a bit. I was surprised how much it jumped around. Well,
isn't it just essentially a piece of piping?
Yeah. It's just steel tube. But I remember thinking that the recoil impulse was pretty sharp. Like it was like my vision was kind of like disrupted, like from shooting it, because I shot a Thompson right afterwards, and I was really surprised how tame the Thompson was after the Sten, which kind of was a weird thing, thinking that the 45 was better recoiling. But
I've shot a Thompson semi-auto, the like a full Tommy gun.
Oh yeah. Those, I see reenactors every now and then that have like the 16-inch barrel Thompsons at a reenactment, and it's pretty cringe.
That irritates me too.
It's like, man, I have a lot of pet peeves about the USGI reenactors. Like, there's a lot.
Whole nother podcast. It's insane.
Oh, it could, man. I have this hatred that I'm reminded of because I have tinnitus in my right ear because of a GI reenactor had to go around and quote unquote executing the Germans that are laying on the ground. So I had a 1911 go off point blank next to my right ear.
Oh, it does hurt. I know the feeling on a 1911, especially blank adapted. They can be pretty loud.
Yeah. I didn't have earplugs in because of like the distances or whatever that we were at. Mm-hmm. Like we didn't need them. But this one guy decided to go around, and it was a public event too. That was the thing. Like the public was watching this like GI walk around and execute all these like Germans that were on the ground.
There is in central Midwest, around where the reenactments we go to, there is no executions, at least anymore. They don't allow it.
It's like weird that that's a thing. Like somebody had to say like that's a rule. No more executions.
That's because somebody like you had an experience like that, and then they're like, "Fuck, we can't allow this anymore. People are morons."
Yeah. Well, I think like some people watch like Fury and then they're like, oh, we got to execute prisoners. And,
I mean, it was part of not Saving Private Ryan, Band of Brothers, wasn't it? Wasn't that one of the theories about that guy that he gave all them cigarettes and then he shot them all?
oh, yeah, yeah, that guy.
Oh, Band of
That's
Brothers, yeah.
Yeah.
Spears.
Yes, yeah. So like, I don't remember the character's name, but yeah, like that's it's been around a long time, that idea of and I'm sure that actually did happen, but like, I still don't understand why anybody would want to do that in a reenactment. It's not exactly like, I guess if you're just trying to be cool or whatever.
Yeah, the only thing we have close to that is if, say, a GI is laying on the ground, pretend to be dead, and then the Germans say they win the battle. He gets up and starts to run. They can shoot him. That's as close as we can get, but that's not truly an execution.
Oh, is that like at a tactical, like a non-public?
No, we do those at public events. It's just where they try to get away instead of laying there. They'll make a run for it, and the Germans will shoot them in the back. We've had that from time to time.
Yeah, luckily I had a close encounter we had a night battle at this reenactment, and I was in this guy is like a millionaire, and he built like a whole mock village out in the middle of his like field, so that like we have these battles and stuff, and he had like a mock church, that looked like a church from the outside and everything, and I was defending this thing with my K98K. And luckily, this GI popped his head in the window right when I was reloading, because I shot all 5 rounds at this Death Star that rolled up next to me out the window, and I think I actually took it out. I think they took the hit, which was very weird that they took the hits. But he stuck his one in the window, and I thought he was going to shoot, but he saw me and he just said bang bang. I was like, oh, thank God, because that would have been bad. Yeah, I've seen some.
Because he probably would have been deaf too, Danny.
Yeah, no, I mean, his rifle was kind of like in my face a little bit, like too close kind of for comfort. But that's just kind of reenacting, though. You just run into those situations, like when you're stacking up this like sort of friendly fire in a way, like when you're stacking up kind of, and like around like on a wall, and everyone's kind of shooting. The guy that's like 2 or 3 back is kind of aiming his rifle, and his muzzle is like next to somebody's head, and ends up shooting. I've seen quite a few people chewed out for doing that.
Yeah, we get that from time to time. There's over in Missouri, there's a military academy that they have some of the cadets go to these reenactments, and they followed along with us one time at a battle, and one of them shot a grand right over the side of my head, and I was like, really? And we have another guy in our group that runs a 1897 trench gun, and so he decides to he just comes up from behind everybody and just starts blasting, slam firing, trying to those kids. It was interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got to get my daughter to bed, so.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thanks, Nick, for joining us. We're glad we could get you on. Nick is one of our Patreon supporters. And I know a lot of people have asked us about getting on the show, and we tried to prioritize our patrons. So if you want on the show, your best bet is to go to patreon.com/MilsurpWorld and support us on there. It's the best way. That's the only reason why you're listening to the show right now, is because of the people that support us over on Patreon. So thank you to the patrons. Thanks, Nick, for coming on the show.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. I'll see you all later.